Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today with episode 150 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak with ACG.
My name is Jaden, and I do Twitch live streaming on Cheesy Crust with a K, and my Twitter handle is Cheesy Crust too. That's all I really have to say about that.
Awesome, man. So we'll have that linked in the description down below. Jaden is also a patron, so thank you so much for supporting the show and sticking around for a while. I mean, we were just talking about beforehand the the live podcast we did one time when it was me, Noah, and Lone, and how much of a shit show that was. So
yeah.
You've been around for a while, so thank you so much. Really do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to join the show, become a patron. That'll be linked down below. You just donate $1 once a month. You skip out on that coffee. You're good to go, and you have a chance to join one of the best podcasts around. On top of that, there's also mobile links for iTunes, Google Play, so that you can listen on the go. Also, $1 a month on Patreon gets you a SoundCloud link, which is much more consistent than those iTunes and Google Play links that I have always provided for you. But anyway, now let's move on to video games. It was kind of a quiet week, but it picked up late. We are going to start off with God of War. It went gold, development's complete, so whatever is in that final package, that's it. We know it's about 25 to 35 hours long, which kind of caught me off guard, but Jaden, I want to hear your thoughts on God of War. Are you looking forward to this game?
I didn't have a PlayStation 3 or a PlayStation 4. I had PlayStation 2, and I played God of War a few times. I haven't actually beat it, but it looks interesting. It's actually like I almost want to get a PlayStation 4 just for God of War. It actually looks really good, and the fact that it's gone gold, nice. No delays.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes me interested in getting a PS4 for sure.
So you don't own the PS4, okay?
No,
so
I only have an Xbox and PC.
Okay, I was going to ask if you were just PC. All right, so have there been any other exclusives that have caught your eye coming up for PlayStation 4 that make you maybe want to make the jump after seeing God of War and now maybe something else like Spider-Man?
Spider-Man for sure. I've always been a big Spider-Man fan.
Good man.
I really was interested in Until Dawn, but I just watched a Let's Play for that since it was just kind of story basically. Other than that, not really, but I thought about it for sure since a lot of my friends are also on PlayStation 4.
Yeah, that seems to be the place to go. Karak, what about you? God of War's gold. You hyped to review this bad boy?
I'm probably old school in the fact that the camera switch is not confusing me, but like it's a little odd looking.
Yeah, we talked about that a while ago, I think.
Yeah. I think when it first got announced, we were like, man, that's different. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I was not a big fan of all the gamified stuff in the leaked video. They showed like people with life bars and all this crazy stuff, and I was like, all right, that'll be turned off. Hopefully, you'll be able to turn it off in the HUD. I mean, I'm really excited about it. I like the idea of going to a different mythology. Like, that's awesome. Like, we're they're just like, hey, fuck it, we're just switching. And I think that that's actually cool because I think you can't get any bigger than like the other games where he's climbing titans and all. You know what I mean? At some point, you're just like, how do you go? It's like a Michael Bay film as your first film. It's like, what are you fucking going to do after that? Because it's like you spent all your budget. You'll never be able to get another film. So the idea of them choosing a different mythology, choosing a different camera system it could be a Fallout 3 situation where it's fucking turns out amazing. You switch the camera and all that stuff, or it could end up alienating a lot of people, or those designers don't have the chops. So I am super interested in reviewing it. I will not lie and say I'm really interested in it as a game.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about this mythology switch. So the first one, I'm assuming it was set in Greek, right? Greek mythology. Okay.
Yeah.
I know nothing about Norse mythology. Does anyone know anything about that? Where I can
Odin,
be informed?
Thor, that's like it. Because of Marvel.
Okay.
Everything.
All right, so see, the reason that excites me is if it ends up like the older God of War games where he's just massacring them. I mean, that was, I thought, the most fun of the original God of War games, especially. I loved God of War 3. I loved that game so much. And just like the rampage Kratos goes on. So I have, because I am personally, I'm just interested. I wouldn't say I'm excited, but I've been keeping my eye on this game as it's developed, because I will say that you know, at first I was like, it kind of reminds me of in a way of what was the game? For Honor, I think it was by Ubisoft.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
We said how like the combat and the camera was just
The camera.
very reminiscent of that game where I know it's not intentional, but it was kind of turning me off. And then, as you say, Karak, they kind of gamified some things like health bars, progression systems that were very RPG-like. It kind of didn't feel God of War to me, like the one that I knew and loved. And so I'm willing to embrace this change if it's good, but it's definitely, it has a lot of question marks for me. So I've been kind of on a media blackout for it because I like to, I don't know if it's ego, but I like to discover it and understand it for myself and not go to outside sources for that type of stuff. I'm like, I'm going to play it and get it on my own.
I guess maybe that's why I'm more interested in it, because I haven't actually played the other ones to know it and like feel what God of War is supposed to be like, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would make a huge difference because, Karak, I don't know, are you like a bigger fan of the older trilogy? You know,
I definitely played them multiple times, but they're not those type of games that I would say, oh, these are the best games ever. They were really fun to sit down with friends and play, and just go through. And like you said, 3, or it's one of your favorites. It's so over the top and so crazy. I love that kind of stuff. I like any kind of game that is just like to reality, like that, where they're just like, fuck you, I'm gonna blow everything up, and I'm like, all right, well, that's cool as long as you do it well. And they did a good job. So for that reason, I'm definitely a fan of that kind of gameplay. But for some reason, even though I always have a joke and I have a picture of Kratos that I sometimes hang up, the fact is that like I'm not a huge fan of one-dimensional characters, and they did say that this game they're going to try to break that, and that actually excites me more almost than anything, because for example, I like John from Halo, but he only says like one word, and I like his ideas, but only from. Yeah, or like, call me when you need, or wake me when you need me. Yeah. Well, that's if you read the books, there's some cool stuff there, really cool stuff. But if you don't read the books, you would never pick up on that. So I'm hoping that this is like, we're gonna flesh this guy out, and make you sort of understand, at least some elements of him. And it sounds like that's where they're going, which is why I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I remember reading just the tagline, the subtitle for an interview. I didn't have a chance to read the full thing, but they were saying that they wanted to make this the most personal, like Sony Santa Monica, I believe they're developers of this, that they wanted to make it the most personal game that they've ever made, in the terms of emotion. So that caught me off guard a little bit, with the sun. It's very different. It's a bold move, I think, for the series. I'm curious to see where it goes, but I can't say I'm moving into it confidently. Like, for me, what sticks with me the most is the game length. I look at 25 to 35 hours. It's not an open world game like Horizon Zero Dawn, which took me just about as many hours to complete. So I think of how much padding will there be? How much, is it going to be like a Mafia 3, like the first 10 hours are rip-roaring, and then it slows down as the game opens up? Is it going to be like Darksiders 2, Tomb Raider, that type of progression? That's where I struggle to find out how this game's going to go.
Right.
I feel like the story's going to be good, but if the pacing's really bad, then it can just disrupt the whole experience. That's where I kind of sit on with this game, and why I'm not at excitement, I'm more at interest, personally. Do you guys share that sentiment with the game length?
Go ahead, Jade.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I will say that, I actually agree, because one of the things they showed was that one specific section where like he was throwing axes and all that stuff, and it looked cool, but I remember thinking that all the parts they showed when he walked around, when he fought the mini-boss, when he did all that, the way it looked, and please no one get pissy, because I'm sure people are going to not like this comparison, but the location reminded me of Neverwinter, the last Neverwinter that came out. I'm sorry, Dragon Age. Inquisition.
Oh, all right.
Oh, yeah.
It looked like just this area that was flat with things sticking out of it. And I remember going, oh man, I'm not quite sure. And I think that the camera view allowed for a different adjustment to the topography, the way the game was put together. When you switch that third-person camera over the shoulder boulder holder kind of fucking view, you're never 100% sure if it's going to be, like a Quantum Break or an Alan Wake. Alan Wake, both of those sort of went the same, but Alan Wake always felt a little clunky. Quantum Break I didn't love, but it felt a little slicker in its movement. And I'm a little nervous that like you're going to get in there and the FOV is tight as fuck. If that's if that's the final FOV, that FOV is like 60.
Yeah.
I mean, it is tight. It's so tight that when he breathes, the camera moves, which means it's either 1-for-1 or it might even be 2-for-1 when it comes to movement, which is also, it's going to be very interesting to see, like, Horizon Zero Dawn, you and I both played that. In Horizon Zero Dawn, a lot of times an enemy would leap past you, and you would spend half your game turning to try. And sure. I'm trying to figure out how they're going to handle that, and they haven't shown enough to, for us to identify it. But those are like parts where if they do handle it really well, then it's probably going to be off to the races, and that game will probably do insanely well, which is what I'm.
Yeah, agreed.
We're all open for that. I also think of the gameplay we saw. I think they said it was from the first 3 hours, and we saw an axe, a shield, and something else that I can't remember right now. And I know one thing with God of War has always been, they give you tons of tools, tons of combos as you level up those weapons, at least in the traditional trilogy, we'll call it. That's how it worked. It's like, with that, it worked because the games were a little bit shorter, but you were constantly getting something new to play with. Then you carry it into a new game, plus you level up all those combos. It was a lot of fun. With this one, it's like, because the game's longer, it's going to take longer to get to that point to maybe get a reward like a Hades Claw, even though I don't think that fits into the Norse mythology. But, I'm just saying hypothetically. And because of that, I do also wonder if it'll have that same reward in the terms of the new tools you get, because obviously the progression system, like we saw them crafting new armor for Kratos and stuff, but like I said, that I think there's a difference because there was a sense of identity already with this series on how they progressed the player through the game and how they rewarded them, and they're also drastically changing that. So I'm really curious to see someone who's a big God of War fan, not like us, but we're like, they're fun, or Jaden's case, he hasn't really played them that much.
Yeah.
I want to see like a big God of War fan dive into this and like the full game when it comes out. I mean, and what they think about it, because I think there are going to be some drastic changes that may not come to light until we're really sitting down playing it. I mean, I have a lot of confidence it can be a good game. It's just there's, like I said, once again, a lot of question marks surrounding it.
Yeah.
Yeah. More exciting news, though. Red Faction Guerilla is getting a remaster. THQ is on a roll with these remasters. They did this with Darksiders 1 and 2. I don't think they've done it with anything else, but they're bringing back the Red Faction series, the best one in my opinion, because there was Armageddon, which was like a corridor shooter, very much a scaled down version of Guerrilla. But Guerrilla is an open world game. It was set on Mars, and it had the best destruction in a video game I've ever played. And has anyone here ever played it?
I played it on a friend's Xbox before, and I don't know why I never owned it. I really don't, because I love destruction, that type of stuff, like exactly what it was all about. But this remaster is a chance for me to get into it and actually play it.
What about you, Karak? You play this one?
I just want to say it's the best name ever. If you guys see what they're calling it, it is
Mars
Turd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Probably the stupidest idea ever. I really
like
want
War Mastered and Definitive.
Oh, Definitive. Holy shit, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah.
My audio's going away. But yeah, it's for me, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the first one, or the original. So my hope is that this one will be done well. It really does depend also on, will the tech be upgraded so that, like, the destruction that Jaden talked about, which was the linchpin of the game, will that look like today's destruction or a decade ago's destruction? Because if it looks like a decade ago, we're fucked. Like, that will not look very good.
I was watching some gameplay because it got re-released on, or not re-released, I think it got its PC edition just like 4 or 5 years ago, and the game came out in 2009. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's recent, but it's more recent. And that destruction still looked great to this day. I mean, like, you'd see just a beam supporting, on a hill. Let's say that this building was built on a hill, so it was coming out, and you knock out the 2 beams that were built into the hill. You'll just see the building itself start to tip over down the hill and just collapse into pieces. Like, it had this very natural destruction that
I love that stuff.
It still looks so good when I was looking at this gameplay. I was very impressed. and it got me really excited for the game again. My only concern is the repetitiveness. I know back then I had a much higher tolerance to that type of stuff. And
as
now,
you get older, you're just like, fuck this, man. I don't want to spend another hour, like hacking phones in Mafia 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Forgot about that shit. Yeah, but I know this version comes with updated effects, so that's one thing I'm very curious about, to see the particle effects when there's a big explosion. Perhaps it'll have a lot more oomph because of the tech, because Karak, you were just touching on that. It's going to be supported for the PS Pro and Xbox One, so that means it's going to be 4K. I imagine 60 FPS, which is also excellent. But they haven't given much details. No release date, no price. I'm not sure how much the War Mastered or Definitive editions were when they launched. Karak, I know you reviewed
29 or 19. But they were in that 19 to 29 range.
Okay.
They weren't full 40, and they weren't super cheap.
Okay. So my next question is, we're looking at THQ kind of put themselves back together. They bought the Saints Row IP. They remastered some of the Darksiders games. They're releasing a Darksiders 3. I'd imagine, who knows, that game we haven't heard mum from ever since its initial reveal with the alpha. I imagine it'll just get another big re-reveal when it's ready, if it gets that far. But now we're also seeing Red Faction. It's getting remastered. Do you think they're testing the market for this? And do you think they're going to take that Saints Row IP, maybe remaster some older games for that, like 1 and 2, and throw them together in a little package, and start kind of gauging the market on where they should go with all these IP in the future?
Go ahead, Jaden.
I think they're testing the market for sure. I love Saints Row, the series. I love everything about it, even the big switch to crazy aliens and crap. I love the way they went with that series, and if they remaster that, that's going to be amazing, because I'm going to be really happy about that. But yeah, I do agree that they are testing the market for that, and I can see a Saints Row remaster coming, or any other.
Let's hope so. I like the first two personally. After that, I didn't play 3, and then 4 I really liked.
Yeah,
but a lot of people said 3 was a lot like 4.
Yeah, they were overlapped a bit. So I guess the question then is also so they're remastering these and stuff. They might be testing the waters, but I'm just wondering how much they'll test it. Before they do, testing the waters usually indicates you're testing it to make something in the future. My hope is we don't get a ton of tests, because if we do, it's just going to be remaster.
Yeah.
And if you look at Far Cry Classic Edition 3 that's coming out in a couple days or whatever, they've done side-by-sides. There is almost no difference. Or if you look at Batman Origins City, those remasters, they were worse. They look legitimately worse as remasters. So to me, what I want to know is, if they are testing the waters, how much testing is required of the consumer before the company just fucking does it? That's one thing that worries me a little bit. Are we going to be tested to the point to where we're all just burned out on remaster of these games we know are good, but not 100% sure we don't want a sequel to?
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, because it's a safe, cost-effective option when you think about it. I mean, they're trying to build up the company again. They don't want to fully invest in something, maybe, and so because of that, they're making remasters, because it's always been a cheap way to make some money, I think. Aren't they behind? Aren't they publishing? I think it's called Biomutant.
Are they? Oh, I don't know. If they're behind Biomutant, they've got something that looks good on their hands. That's for sure.
I heard a little bit.
I think I'm not 100% sure.
Biomutant looks THQ. Well, it's THQ Nordic.
Yeah, that's the same company that's doing.
Yeah.
Remasters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Biomutant looks. It looked alpha, of course, but some of the stuff that they showed looks really, really
good for an alpha.
Yeah, I just with this game, I hope it doesn't end up being like a Batman remaster where they end up screwing it up, because this is one of the few remasters I was hoping for. I'll admit, though, it wasn't the one I was that I knew I wanted until they did it. I was like, yes, thank God they're bringing this back, because it's such a cool idea, and with the tech nowadays, they could make a really cool Red Faction game. But that's how I felt when it was announced. I was like, wow, I didn't know I want this so bad until I saw it. Damn, bro. I can't wait. When do you guys think it's going to get released? You know, it's remastered. It just got announced. It was outed, as in, like, there were reports. I think it was in January. I looked it up. And so now we're in the end of March. It's announced. So we're saying, like, May, June. You think this is out?
Yeah. Maybe later. I don't, but probably around that time. Like July, maybe.
Yeah, because if it's not, let's say it's July, that's fine. But if it's anything after, you're going up at some point against Red Dead, which you might as well just be dead.
Yeah.
Like, do you really want to go against Red Dead? Does anybody? I mean, entire companies are shifting their, and it makes sense. They release a game every 6 years, so you would shift. I would hope that those guys look at it and don't do the thing we saw Microsoft do, we've seen other companies do, and say, we're still going to release in our time frame, you know, sort of egotistically. And it's like, well, you're going to do shitty. Because, I mean, Jesus, it's Red Dead. Like, it's all anybody's going to be talking about. So July and prior would be great. That would be. But I don't know. It seems like it might be farther out than that. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think with... there is a game that's coming out soon that was just recently announced, and it's not coming to my mind right now, but that's kind of what I expected with this. And when they were like, yeah, we don't have a release date or anything, just it's coming. That's it. No gameplay, no pictures as far as I'm aware. That's what kind of caught me off guard. And I was like, this might be a good 3 or 4 months off, but if it's any later, that's they're playing with fire.
Yeah.
Playing with some serious fire.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully THQ makes a smart choice and keeps the company on track. And now we'll talk about Sea of Thieves, one of the first Microsoft first-party games to release in quite a long while. And there's some good news accompanied with this, and I think this is Microsoft reassuring investors, personally. But it is the fastest-selling first-party new IP. It has 2 million sales, and is also the best-selling Microsoft game on Windows 10. Mind you, these numbers currently do not include the Xbox Game Pass, where you can pay $10 a month and have access to all of these Microsoft games, also including their first-party titles. So I think this also might be a show of Microsoft to say, like, hey, you know, this Game Pass doesn't impact our sales in the terms of people who just go out and spend $60 on this new idea, which I think is actually pretty remarkable in its own right, especially with its launch struggles. Like, does anyone have an idea how this happened? I don't know how else to word it.
Like the
success, you know, it launches, there's issues, and it ends up being, you know, the fastest selling first party new IP, and it has 2 million sales within like a week. That's pretty damn good.
I just know that the beta was really popular. That was like, you know, that's I don't know. I really don't like. It didn't really appeal to me, like personally, until, you know, like I saw a bit of gameplay, and I'm still kind of nervous going into it, see if I'd like be able to get a bunch of hours out of it, because I've heard from a lot of people that it's like you can only, like, it's No Man's Sky, but it's because there's nothing to do after like 2-3 hours. It's like there's a lot of stuff, but you know, just isn't much to do. So I don't know. Like, it's successful in sales, but I'm nervous about the game itself, because I'm about to play it tomorrow with you guys in the game session.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
At least hopefully it'll be fun. I mean, did you spend $60 on it?
I'm gonna buy the Game Pass for sure first.
I did the same exact thing. I was like, I don't feel comfortable dropping 60 on this. I was like, guys,
I get paid today.
If you're joining the Patreon game session, please do the Game Pass and just go through there.
Yeah.
For me, I hit a huge Windows Store error, and I was talking about this.
I saw that.
Yeah, dude. I'm downloading this game, and I'm about to walk to go take a shower, and I see like it's installed, and thank God I turned around and looked, because it was just like, error, it didn't install. And I go, what the fuck? Like, okay, let me just redo it, and I'll sit here and wait, because it was a 20 gig download, and I'll give the Windows Store credit. I mean, its download speeds are tremendous. I think that's just Microsoft in general, though, because the Xbox download speeds have always been good for me. Anyway, off track. Re-download it. Doesn't work again. So I start looking up like all these different fixes that are on the No Man's Sky. Wow. Whoa.
No Man's Sea.
Wah wah.
Sea of Thieves I saw, actually, that reminds me, I saw someone post a tweet online and they were like, imagine if Sea of Thieves is actually a planet in No Man's Sky.
Oh, Jesus, that'd be awesome.
Right.
No Man's Sea.
But anyway, so I look up the Sea of Thieves forum and there's like 10 different fixes from the developers on how to do this, and I'm trying all of these. They're like, reset your computer. Didn't work. One of them was go inside like your actual control panel. I had to type in like a program command. That didn't work. Then I had to give the Windows Store a command. I had to go into my task manager, my services. That didn't work. Like, I tried 4 different things, and then it finally worked when I went into like my Windows PowerShell and put in a different command, and then all of a sudden it just went, Sea of Thieves is now installed. Started it up, worked just fine. And those initial couple of minutes with Sea of Thieves, I'm talking like 1 minute impressions, folks. I've never done this before. My 1 minute impressions of Sea of Thieves. I was so confused. Like, they start off with a cutscene, and then you don't have a main menu, which, we've seen that in a lot of games. I was thinking to myself, all right, I just want to start this up, make sure it actually works so that I can play with the patrons, and I'm shutting it off. But it actually wouldn't let me escape to my desktop. And I'm like, okay, I'll just make my character. So I select my character, thinking I could customize him, and it's all just like preset that you randomly generate. You can't actually like select a pirate as a template and then change them from there. I guess it's part of the game. You unlock clothes and cosmetics there.
Yeah.
That was a little jarring. And then it loads me in. I'm thinking like, all right, it's going to put me at a main menu, tell me how to make my party. They're like, pick your ship. I pick my ship. They tell me to invite a crew. I'm like, I don't have a fucking crew. So I just hit like set sail thinking, all right, now maybe I'll be able to exit out of this game. And from there, it starts me up in like a crew of 3 other people. And I hear them all talking on the headset. I'm like, see you later. And I left right away. And it was
Rip.
That was it from there. I bailed on a crew within my first minute of playing. Did they sub people in, or did I just completely leave them out to dry?
They don't sub people in right away. There's but your experience was literally word for word, your experience was my first experience with the game too.
Right? Like
That's exact. I didn't hit sail right. I picked. It's like, do you want a small ship or a big ship? And I'm like, bitches, big ship, man. We don't roll with no sloop here. So I get the big ship, and it's like, do you want a crew or invite or set sail? And I'm like, well, I don't have anybody to invite because I was in the review period. And I fucking hit that thing, and I show up, and the same exact thing happened. People were talking, and I was like, we're out, bitch. Yeah. And I closed. I was like, that's not the way I want to start this game, because you don't know who you're going to get. And I think if you do start with a random crew, it could be so much worse. It like randoms, even for somebody who's played it for a while. But what's interesting with Sea of Thieves is it's not that there's nothing. First of all, like No Man's Sky, long story short, they lied. There were times where they actually lied. They said something was in the game, and it wasn't.
Yeah, that's
Sea of Thieves is different. They're like, there's nothing in the game, and you're all, nah, can't be. Nah, there's got to be something. They're like, no. There's literally nothing in here. You do that, and everybody was like, no. Yeah. And that's so I give them total credit for they made it pretty clear what it was available. It's not that you can't do anything later. It's that it just basically goes 1 skeleton when you're low level, then 2,
it's the same thing,
then 3 skeletons, then 1 treasure chest, or 2 treasure chests, or 3 treasure. It doesn't really add complexity at all.
That's exactly the same word that I heard somebody else.
Yeah, and so when I was talking to friends, the thing that came up with us was this: if you have not had a PS home, was that what that was called? The VR, where you could go into your homes when PS3 was out, wasn't it?
Oh man, I've never used that thing. I've seen it though.
So if you haven't had an experience like that, you haven't had an experience with VR chat, which I guarantee you'd know if you did, because that's some crazy shit. But if you haven't had any experiences with chat and that kind of stuff, Sea of Thieves at the starting can be fucking phenomenal, because you'll get 4 people. One's playing the accordion, the other's talking like a pirate, somebody's fucking adjusting the sails, somebody else is steering. And I think that's when you get a lot of people really excited. The problem is it leaves everything on you. It's just like you have to create the enjoyment, and then you look at the world, the NPC interaction, it's barely there. And so you're not getting fired upon by like NPC ships ever. And so you start sort of sailing around going like, And I think that's the big problem with Sea of Thieves, is that they need a content update. Like very badly. And
how soon do you think that's going to come? Because I mean, they've been releasing updates. I think just the other day they released some type of news post, and they said like certain things are coming. But when I was reading it, it didn't look like anything significant. Like, oh, this'll be the content people are looking for.
What's a little scary too is I don't know how it'll probably be a while, because there's only two ways to go about it. One, they knew there was nothing in there and they released it, which doesn't show a very good company. They requiring $60 from people and stuff. It doesn't show. It doesn't give you a lot of confidence. Or they didn't know that people wouldn't find a lot to do and they released it, which shows incompetence. So it's weird. This is a game that like came out, and even the people I know who are developers are like, man, this is an odd title. I mean, there's not a lot here, and they're patching. If they do patch it, one of the biggest problems is how expensive everything. A bucket is 2,000 gold pieces, and the bucket doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. It's like you get like a normal bucket or a jeweled bucket. And I think that that's probably where a lot of us, like, any of us who are accustomed to customization, accustomed to games that are sandboxes but have complexity, it's a sandbox, but there is no complexity other than other people.
Progression.
Yeah, it's all horizontal progression. There's no linear progression at all. Well, I mean, you do go up in levels, you can get the more skeletons missions, but that's pretty much it. So it'll be interesting to see where it is. Also, Matty, I don't know if you know this, but Microsoft for years has said, this was when they were losing, by the way, to Sony. They were like, we won't be talking about copies sold. We're going to talk about engagement and people currently playing. This is the first game where they switched that around and they wouldn't say what the current player base is. That makes me wonder if it's not as good as... So they're saying it's sold well, and you'll see this everywhere. You'll see entire forum threads about like Microsoft won't say sales numbers. You'll have to go to other groups to get it. And they were like, oh, yeah, it's all going to be about engagement. And as a big Microsoft fan, that sort of sucks. Like, I want that game to do good. I want it to have stuff.
Yeah, hold on. I'm on their forums right now trying to find the patch notes they have. Because, like, I swear, it was like something that just would not have sold me on it. Let's see here. Coming updates. Performance improvements, okay. Fixed issues. Yeah, like, alright, these are like notifications. This is performance. Yeah, nothing about content. Like, I'm not saying,
no actual.
How are they only patching bugs, right? Like, of course we want the bugs gone, but was this game buggy in the first place?
Not that I've heard of it. Like, I haven't heard gripe about bugs. Like, it's just
it's just empty.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I had a couple little technical stuff, but nothing.
That's
you know what? Windows
fear.
Store owners and Game Pass folks got locked out yesterday. I know that was a huge deal. If you owned the game on Game Pass, it suddenly wouldn't let you in.
God, imagine that happens tomorrow for me.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I just... My thought is they're going to finally get content, and with the way this game's going, it's like we've seen this story before. We've seen this happen before. And I just feel like, okay, it's they're going to get that content, and then something else is going to happen. Like, that won't be enough, or it'll get repetitive quickly, or it'll bring about some bug that's going to cause another set of issues, and then they're going to have to fix that before they move on to the actual content that they wanted to do afterwards. That's the type of stuff that I'm personally concerned about with the game, because we've seen it before.
I've heard that the progression is so bad that you can't be better than someone else. So when you're battling somebody on a ship, it's hard to like beat them because you're just going back and forth. You're repairing your ship, firing cannons, and there's no way you can like beat each other. Like sometimes unless you just mess up or something. I've heard that happen with a lot of players.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the good news is it sold well, but I am curious, like Karak mentioned, I want to see player engagement numbers as well, because that would be very telling. What I do think is cool, though, is that this doesn't include Game Pass, which I think could drastically increase those numbers, considering how cheap that is. Because for players like me and Jaden, who are thinking, well, let's try this out, we only have to spend $10. And I'm on the free trial, so I'm actually going to try this out for free. If I don't like it, then that's it. I haven't spent any money on it. So, pretty ballsy move by Microsoft. And now, let's see what's up next on my list. System Shock 2, or System Shock moved back to 2020. Karak, I think this is one you were looking forward to.
Yeah, very much so. I actually did it. It's one of the few news videos I did when they announced like that they weren't.
I just need
basically
water.
It was, yeah, for sure. It was a Kickstarted title, and then there was the idea that it was going to be out soon, and then there was a hiatus where the CEO basically said we've not laid people off. We've sent them home for a little while we decide how to rescope the game. And then now they're saying that rescope will happen, and they have that release date you read. But the thing that's interesting about System Shock is that, so if you're releasing a System Shock 2 game, you're releasing a game that's got the mechanics from System Shock 2 era, which aren't the same as the today's era and expectations. But at the same time, they said, oh, well, we're adding stuff. But the problem is sometimes those don't mesh. Like, it's very difficult. For example, if you got a remaster like an Assassin's Creed Rogue, and then you threw Origins elements in there, it could actually feel terrible just because those elements aren't built organically around one another. The movement of the combat, yeah. And so it's that to me is where, and I did a video, and I did get some messages from the CEO actually, who was like, hey, appreciate it. We are working on it. Thanks for doing a video, blah, 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 and not being negative. And I was like, yeah, it does suck when you're a CEO of something, you're like, hey, we're going to hold on, which is something we all talk about. We want companies to hold on. But then the moment they do, we're like, what the fuck are you holding on for? We want it right now. So we sort of lose out. Were you thinking about getting it, Jaden? Were you looking forward to it, or?
System, so is this a remake of 1 or 2?
Oh, well, sorry.
1?
Yeah, this is the remake of 1.
Okay. I have never played that. It was like way before my time.
Understood.
But I looked it up before the podcast, and it's a game about like AI going crazy and stuff. And well, apparently, like, what am I trying to say? The mechanics just didn't seem modern day. Like you said, it won't seem to mesh well. And they said they were going to add new stuff, even though their goal in the beginning was to keep it kind of the same.
Right.
And now they're going back to that. That's why it's being delayed, because they need to redo, or because they need to rethink their strategy, how they're going to the game, and they want to just create the original experience with better graphics now.
Does that interest you though? Like a game, if I said that I'm remastering, a System Shock, which is an ancient game anyway, do you automatically think, well, the mechanics are so old they won't interest me, or are you a gamer who would jump into that?
I like the whole AI thing. I like the kind of story part. So it would probably be a good time for me to jump in. I don't think I would buy it if it was too much money or anything.
Gotcha.
But like, if it was too much money, I would wait for a sale. But yeah, it does interest me. I like the whole AI thing. I've always thought that was interesting, and like
the story conceit itself.
Yeah.
Have you done the BioShocks and
yeah, I'm actually in the middle of playing BioShock 2 because somebody bought it for me because they really wanted me to play it.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
Yeah, I played BioShock 1 all the way through, and I'm in the middle of BioShock 2, and I haven't played Infinite yet.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's they just do share the Shock name. There's going to be a lot of differences between them. I think with System Shock, especially this company, I know a lot of people feel burned by some of the stuff they've done in the past, so that probably scares people. Some people like them more because of stuff they've done in the past. You never know where somebody's going to lay. But it is interesting, as a Kickstarter game. I don't know about you, but it seems like every time now a game is kickstarted, I'm pretty sure even if I get the game, I'm not going to get the game I kicked because it changes, so much. Have you kickstarted any titles yourself?
No, I know nothing about like development.
Sorry, I had to make a sprint across the nation.
That's right. We were just talking about the fact that this was a Kickstarter, and yet they're altering a lot of elements from the original Kickstarter. So some people, like, does that bother people that when you look at a game like this and it's going to change, like you kickstarted one thing and then they're like, well, we've decided to do this, and you're like, that's not exactly.
Yeah, I actually donated to this game and Shenmue 3. Those are the only 2 games I've ever kickstarted. But yeah, so I am one of the funders or backers for this game. I'm actually very curious to see if it even sees the light of day. Wasn't it supposed to come out like this year?
It was. They say 2019. We'll see. I mean, it depends on what they do. And we were talking about that right when you left. Is if you took the mechanics of Origins and put it in with Rogue or Syndicate, it wouldn't feel great because it wasn't organically built. Even if those systems work better in Origins. And what scares me about this one is how much change do you really want? Because if you add in all these new game, for example, progression, we can just go back to the God of War discussion. If you're going to change those progression and all that kind of stuff, then, from the older style, then what are you kickstarting? Because really, are you kickstarting a remaster? Not anymore. You're kickstarting a game that says it's going to have the same name, and that's pretty much it. Because at that point, if it's a remake, there is no real guarantee, of what you're going to get or what it's going to be like. It can be whatever it wants as long as it's got the same name. So, I don't know. It's odd situation for that entire team.
Yeah. I can't say I envy them. That's the thing with Kickstarter games. It's always something, if you want to really put it vaguely, I guess. Yeah, it's always something cropping up.
Yeah.
I can't think of a Kickstarter title that just, smooth as butter. Aside from...
I think Friday the 13th. Didn't that?
Was that smooth? I know that game was very buggy on launch.
Yeah, I played it a little bit, and I actually, I was about to answer Karak, that was the only game I ever actually liked. I was really interested in it, but it didn't have that much to keep me there for more than, I think I played 10 hours of it.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't appeal to me after a while. But I think they did everything they were going to. So I think that was one thing that they did, but it just didn't have enough, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've never been a Friday the 13th guy. That game just didn't sync with me off the start. But I think that's the beauty of Kickstarter in a way, is that it's for fans of a certain series to be able to get behind something that they never thought they'd see. For me, it's Shenmue 3. Holy shit! I'm sure Sony could have made it happen, but point being is I thought I'd never see that game, and now it's being kickstarted, and that was one of the most frequently updated Kickstarters compared to System Shock, where updates were so few and far between. Very out of, because I get an email for each one. And with Shenmue, I mean, for a while now, now it's quieted down because they're deeper in development, but it was every week. It was just, here's this, here's this, here's this. Now this is what we're working on. It was very in touch with the community. And then you look at System Shock, and I remember seeing 8, and that was it. I don't know if it went higher than that. It had to have, but, it was very clear something was going wrong early on. And it didn't make it that far, where I'll be very shocked to see this game make it out, personally. I say that as someone who is backing the game, and I'm excited for it. The only reason I did support it, though, is because of Chris Avalon. I love his work. And,
exactly.
I always want to give him some love, keep that man employed. So I was like, fuck it, here's 20
keep him here and not working on movies.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
stay in games.
Yeah, but System Shock. I've never played the original.
Scary.
Karak, you've played the original?
Yeah, this will be a remake of that original, not 2, which I think we said earlier a little bit messed up. But so this, it's aged, or it is old to the point to where I was young when I played it.
1994, I think.
Because Jaden was saying, so I was just out of high school, and Jaden was saying it was too early for him, and he's right. I think that's actually one of the problems is you're selling to people like me who maybe remember it. The other people are like, System Shock, okay. It's way before my time.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, now they're changing a bunch of stuff. So it's definitely going to be interesting. Also, I think when you look at how much a Kickstarter makes, you can sort of identify how much leeway they have. they did not make a ton over what, like what most game development makes and requires. And so that's another thing I was wondering is like, how much leeway does somebody have if they don't make a ton from Kickstarter? Do they have, some personal loans? Do they have, and the money to sort of experiment? It's going to be interesting to see, because the original, if they just remastered it, it wouldn't cost as much as they got, but a remake costs a ton. You know what I mean? So there's no middle. There's not a great amount of middle ground. Sometimes it's just like we have to jump in, and I don't know. Maybe that's what they chose to do. That's another thing is the email that I got, the update wasn't the greatest. This last one, when they said that it was about this release, and it was just it wasn't the greatest about about the update. It was just like, yeah, we are still working. It will be released in a time frame of 2019, I think, and then it was like, we are thinking of doing this, and you're all, okay, well, you're already thinking of that, so you're just not quite
where
sure
you want to
go
and go with it.
Yeah.
Good point. Very well said. All right, well, hopefully System Shock makes its way out. But how about something a little more exciting? Probably the best news this week, easily. That news is Lego The Incredibles. It's coming out in June. I'm so getting that. It's going to have The Incredibles 1 and 2 in it. And I just wanted to talk about the Lego games in general. It always feels like when they drop one, it's like, this is such a good fit. I think it was popularized with the Lego Star Wars games, where we were all like, okay, this is, I think most of us, that's where we started to pick up on them. And it felt like a good return to form when they did Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, so I thought there would be one for The Last Jedi. Then there's not, and they go with The Incredibles, and it's like, wow, this works so much better. And I wanted to hear from you guys, did you have any Lego games in mind, like any brands or franchises that you're like, man, this would make a good Lego game?
Go ahead, Jaden.
So this is one of the topic that I knew I'd really have a really hard time with, because I've only played one
That's
Lego
why
game.
I gave you a heads up. I didn't want to put you on the spot with this one. I was like, this would be a toughie to come up with.
I've only played one Lego game, and I don't even remember which one it was. I just know it had like Indiana Jones in it.
Okay.
Yeah, but there, I think I've never been an Incredibles person either, so I couldn't really say much about this. But I've always liked the fact that Legos, they're always coming up with stuff. Like, they just put something in Legos, and then you can just make it. Doesn't matter what it is. So Incredibles kind of, it wasn't a surprise, because it's just another thing to put in Legos.
Okay.
But
if you haven't played a bunch of Legos, then what is IP that would interest you in Lego games?
Star Trek. Like, I know Star Wars is a thing, but I'm more of a Star Trek fan myself.
Me too.
Yeah, and I think I would. Wow, Maddie.
Okay, sorry.
Fight. But yeah, I think I would pick up a Lego game if it was Star Trek.
Nice. Karak, what about you, man? Do you
Yeah, Star Trek. No, he was
wow.
right. Like, he nailed it. Because I didn't even think of Star Trek until he said it, and that would be my answer. I would play the shit out of a fucking Lego Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, it's super exciting if they did that. I'm not a huge Incredibles fan. I know that you and I both played Marvel 2. Wasn't it Marvel Superheroes 2?
Yeah.
I find them incredibly enjoyable games. I know a lot of people hate that I do, but I like that one. I liked City that came out a while ago. It was out on the Switch too. Those were good. I think Lego games are different because like they're little mini GTAs. A lot of them are where especially like City, you could go all over the city. You could do these various different little things, and it seems like it's kiddie, like it's for a younger audience, and it is, but if you watch Batman the Lego movie, you realize it's not all kiddie. So that's why I would love to see a more mature thing. I think for Lego, for me, the biggest change happened when they switched to voices, because I was playing Lego games prior to them doing voiceover, and so it was like it would be text, or they go. I think there was one or two that did the.
Like rah.
Yeah. Oh my god, I hate that. It
you
just
didn't like that.
Oh, it's the worst thing in the universe. It's like, if you put sound there, put real fucking sound. So when yeah, there's no point. So when they switched to vocals, I was really excited, and I've enjoyed them a lot more now that that's happening.
See, I never had like a. I know when they added vocals, I was like, for that game, I want to say it was the first. They couldn't.
Lord of the Rings.
Was it Lord of the Rings? Is that when they added?
Or Pirates of the Caribbean? I don't know. I just for some reason
it was Marvel Superheroes 1, I think.
Oh, gotcha.
And I remember I was like, whoa, this like is really amplifying the experience. But before that, I think of Lego Star Wars, and when they were like, they look at something and go like that, and just that's all they could do. I think it put such a focus on the amazing animation that's in those games, because you had to pay attention to the, how they did certain things in the world and how they interacted with the environment to get a feel for what they were trying to say. And it was also, it gave it, instead of let's just remake this cutscene except with Lego parts in it, it was let's make this in only a way a Lego game can do it, by saying what this scene is supposed to be of without actually speaking it. Yeah. And just having music and moving your hands and stuff tell that story. And I always found that interesting, and it's made me want to go back to them. But for me, if I were to pick an IP that was to get a Lego release, it would obviously be Ninja Turtles. I mean, it would just fit.
Yeah.
It would just fit. I mean, I look at it this way. You could have the open world in New York City. There are so many characters to pick from. Lego has been big on comic books, and you could draw from the comics with the Ninja Turtles as long as you want. There's so many different renditions. I mean, one thing that's big with the Lego games is like every character has different abilities to interact with the world itself. And I think that's also a huge point. And with that being a huge point in the game, I think the Ninja Turtles and all the characters in the universe and their abilities, I think that would fit well, where you could have like a scientist category, which could be like an April, Donatello, Professor Honeycutt, etc. So I think Ninja Turtles would fit well. I mean, I should really just be the director of these fucking Ninja Turtles games, because between like my idea for Rocksteady to do one and a Lego game for it, I could literally bring them back to relevance in the video game department single-handedly. Just I'm like, look guys, just enter the room, everyone shut the fuck up. All of them look at me. I'm just like, give it to Rocksteady and give it to Lego. That's it. That's all we got to do. And it's over. I hope someone's listening. Someone from Warner Brothers. Someone in the games industry who knows someone from Warner Brothers. Pass this along. I'm telling you. There is money to be made. And it'd be fucking awesome.
I have something to say about Ninja Turtles in video games. I was disgusted with Ninja Turtles and Injustice 2. I'm not going to lie.
You didn't like it?
I know you love that, but like, it just didn't make sense to me.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm open to that. Let's hear it.
I didn't like the Ninja Turtles and Injustice 2. I just wanted to say that.
Oh, it just didn't fit?
Yeah. And I know you like that, so
I did.
I was like,
I did, and I even played them, and I liked them. I just, oh god, like people gave me shit for complaining about it, but oh my gosh, the voice lines in that game especially when I was playing it, I was like, this is awful. Some of the one-liners they had just. Ugh.
So, with Injustice, I actually am on Jaden's side. Like but for me it was design on Injustice 2. I did not like the fucking turtle designs, but I also thought Hellboy looked fucking horrendous. And I know a lot of people were really mad at me because I guess he's like, that's his canon look. But the thing is he didn't look like an Injustice character. He looked all fucking weird. And I think with the turtles, I felt the same way. I want to see a good turtle game because there hasn't been a turtle game ever for years. We'll pretend that the Platinum game didn't exist. So it would be awesome to see. I think that it's funny because Matty exists in a time frame that is just a little bit prior to mine, but not enough that like I don't know what Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is. But it came about when I wasn't watching those kind of things anymore. And so I would be really interested in watching or playing Lego to experience those again, because I really don't have the institutional knowledge. When you said Mr. Chuckles or whatever the fuck his name is,
Professor
you said
Honeycutt.
I was close, Mr. Chuckles, Professor Honeycutt. But you're like Professor Honeycutt, and my brain was like, I don't think I have any clue if I've ever heard those words before. So that's what's cool. I'm a big fan of that. Star Wars, Star Trek is great, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hasn't been around a lot. They haven't shown a bunch. So I'm also all for them saying, let's go to something that's a little more old style and do a Lego from that. So yeah, I would be down for some fucking.
The only thing is, usually they base it off something current, right?
Current.
You know, like the Incredibles. It's like, okay, that's, you know, they have a new movie. They're going to base it off the first movie and the second movie. But the Ninja Turtles have had so many renditions, and they just announced a brand new cartoon version of them that looks kind of different too. And so it's like, what universe do they even place it in? There's comic stories going on that I've been reading. There's like there's 2 different running shows for it. There's a movie that has a completely different style. Like, there's so many styles of the Turtles. I think that's the only thing holding them back maybe from something along those lines is, what Turtles do we do and what story do we tell again with a Ninja Turtle Lego game? Or I'd like just an original story, you know.
I think also, I just have to say, can we all agree, fucking Marvel Superheroes 2 was phenomenal.
Yes.
As a game.
Yes.
Holy shit. Like, very that fun game, and I didn't get a chance to review it. I remember that one, you got a review copy and I didn't. Remember? This was like a couple months ago. And so I was like, okay, Maddie's going to handle it. I'm going to fucking, like, invite some friends over. Because normally it would just be me. I'm like, I'll invite some friends over. We're just going to sit down, you know, wife, whatever, and play it. And, dude, I'm telling you, that's one of the top-tier Lego games. Mm-hmm. Like, that game is fucking phenomenal. That time when you're, like, flying around as Iron Man around the tower from, which movie is that? Ultron, I think. Ultron. Return of Ultron. But the stuff that they do is just fucking, it's, like, continually hits for me. I don't know why. I so dig it. So dig it.
Because, you know, it's kind of like Platinum, where we're like, oh, they got their top-tier games, and they got their low-tier ones. Like, I look at Lego Batman 3, and I did not like that game. I didn't like Lord of the Rings. I never played Pirates of the Caribbean. But, you know, I look at that versus Lego Batman 2, Marvel Superheroes 1 and 2, and I think, actually, they did Lego Marvel Avengers, which wasn't that great either. And, you know, you look at those games, and even some of them are under the same property, but they end up not being that good. So I think TT Games has like a lot of teams, kind of like a Platinum, where with Lego Marvel 2, we got probably their top team working on that, because that was excellent. You know, the way the world was designed, the way the missions were designed, the amount of content, the amount of characters, the focus on the comics, characters that a lot of us had never even heard of. You know, like Howard Duck, I think his name was, or something like that.
Howard the Duck?
Yes, that's who
Howard
it was.
The Duck. Yeah. There's a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I never heard of him, and I saw this and I was like, I wanna read something about this guy.
Oh, dude, yeah, you should check out Howard the Duck. Creepiest movie ever made. You need to check it out.
Really?
It shows people, like, or it hints that Leah Thompson, do you remember her from Back to the Future? The chick from Back to the Future, the movies?
I've never seen that movie.
Dude, I don't even want to talk to you anymore. All right, we're done. We're done. Friendship fucking over. Everything I mentioned. Maddie's like, of course I should probably mention stuff that's newer, but any of the stuff I mentioned, he's
because
like,
there are so many classic movies that they're like, really? You haven't fucking seen that? Like,
anyway, Howard the Duck, you would like.
Yeah,
I think you would think it was cool as a comic book or something. And I think that's one of the great things about Lego is they're allowed to do that, right? All these side characters. Look at Batman the movie. Did you guys see that? The Batman Lego movie?
Yeah, I did see it.
That is funny. God damn! Like, I was laughing through that.
As the original Lego movie. We've talked about this.
We have talked about this.
You thought it was fucking amazing. I was like, it was.
Dude, I fucking just rewatched it, actually, and I'm just laughing through the entire thing. But regardless, what I was going to say was, in that one, they also grabbed Calendar Man and all these characters that you're like, is that real? And even in the in-joke, he goes, these are all real, you should look. And you're like, no, they can't be real. That's what's cool about the Lego games, is they're able to do that with tongue-in-cheek, and no one gets pissed. You don't have to have somebody saying, my IP needs to be treated, you know, with perfection, and, you know, we don't want you to damage cars like in the original Gran Turismo. Exactly, yeah.
Wow. All right. That Lego game discussion, I actually think that was one of our more extensive discussions. I think we talked about that more than God of War.
Yeah.
That's something I didn't expect. I'm like, 5-minute topic, whatever. But, you know, that's
they're good games. I hope more people check them out.
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, that'd be a good way to cap off the discussion, Karak, because you played them, and we got someone sitting here who's only played a little bit of one. You got a new Lego fan sitting here. Which Lego game do you tell them to play? Drum roll.
Shit. No, I don't have. That's fucking hard. Because City, it doesn't have anywhere near like the spirit of a Marvel because it doesn't have the character strength. But its GTA moments are actually really amazing. Man, I don't know. Probably Marvel too. Actually, probably this most recent one. Because, dude, it was pretty fucking good. Like, it did a lot of the things just right enough that I think a person who doesn't like them might like them. Well, as a matter of fact, the people I did invite over, people were like, man, I would never have bought a Lego game. Yeah. But, like, I now want to get a Lego game.
I agree. Especially because there were just cool moments. Where, you know, like, I remember I was web slinging as Spider-Man, and then I ended up in, like, the Noir City, where it's black and white, and then, you know, you're like Spider-Man Noir, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. So they had some moments that naturally happened just based off its expansive cast and the world they built that make it a real special game. What else do we have on this list? Oh, this is a great question. This came from someone who's actually joined the podcast before, the Grimblade Brennan. He asked this on our Discord, and we just had to include it in the conversation because I posted a video this week talking about game length versus game quality. And so one of my goals in my videos, especially in these discussions, is like getting you thinking about other questions and other topics, and then we talk about them together. And so this made me really happy when he asked this. He said, what would it take for you to buy a $60 game if it were only an hour long? Which, in today's gaming climate, I don't see that happening. But
yeah,
let's say we have a 1 hour game, okay? I don't know what type of game this is. That's up to you. Like, you have to create your dream game in an hour. What are you spending $60 on?
Okay, I'll start. It would have to be more of a story. Like, even though you can't tell an amazing story in an hour, if it was something that punched like a story that, like Wolfenstein 2, that like twist in the middle. If it was something that hit me as hard as that, like, you know, it would have to be a story-based game. If it was an hour, obviously you can't fit an open world game if it only has an hour of content, and those are the types of games that I mostly like playing. So yeah, it would have to be an insane story, basically.
Karak, what about you? You're making this hour game.
It's funny because I'll go with the exact opposite and say the only thing I could see an hour working on would be is if every level had completely different mechanics, but they were all good. So it was like not mini games, because I don't want to say, because that'll bring the wrong connotation. People go, oh fuck. But if you had like multiple games that required really different thought processes, but they were all based around, you know, like there's a game called Tempest. I don't know if you guys played it. It's a fucking ancient game, but you're basically a spider on the edge of a web, and then enemies come out from the center of the web, and you have to circle around the web and kill them. And then each level is a different web design, and it gets more and more intricate. And it changes the gameplay a little bit. Something that would be along the same lines of a thematic title, so it wouldn't just randomly have mini games. They would have to all have some kind of like layered backbone. But that's a hard question, because I think when Grim was asking it, he was just like, he threw out an hour. But that discussion, the moment you start talking about it, you're like, well, even if you hold to it and say 60 minutes is the longest you can play it, I'm not quite sure you could ever give me a game that I would buy for 60.
That was my original
I guess would be my answer. Yeah, none.
All right. Yeah, I agree with that. For the sake of discussion, gun to your head, you got to spend $60 on this dollar game or you're done for. I think for me, it would have to be like one of my favorite licenses tied to it. I'd probably have to go Ninja Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
And within that, there is it's just an hour long. I want it to somehow be a replayable narrative that involves different choices that, you know, perhaps based on, like, you know, if I play in a more aggressive style as Raphael in a playthrough, they're like, you played so aggressive that you unlocked Casey Jones because of the choices you made. and therefore you unlock like another aggressive style character who plays totally different. So it's an hour long, but you keep looping that 1 hour, and as you make choices,
and you get different characters.
Yeah, you get different characters in the universe. That's why I think like it doesn't have to be just Ninja Turtles. Like you could do Star Wars with that. You make choices, you know, you end up on the dark side. We'll say you unlock Darth Maul, and he's got his whole own combat system.
Yeah.
And from there, you know, like I said, it's just choices you make, and that affects the characters you unlock. I feel like that would be an hour game I could play over and over, because it would be like almost a feedback loop. It's like, yeah, it's an hour long, but you're getting a new character, you're getting a new combo system.
Yeah, it'd be multiple 1 hours, basically.
Yeah, exactly what I'm going for here. I'm kind of bending the question, aren't I? But
it kind of, but it's okay.
I was like, that would suffice, wouldn't it? Because I thought of Ken Levine for some reason, because he said he wanted to make like a replayable narrative in his next game, whenever the fuck that's coming out. Hopefully soon. But
yeah,
it would be something that you could. So, building on what Matty was saying, you could technically see. I didn't really take it as like unlimited resources or whatever, because if true, then you could just make a game that's just random each time you play it. Then it might be worth 60. But I'm not a big comic book fan, but looking at repetitiveness, I could see like the flashover or the Flashpoint stuff from the Flash, where like he goes back in time, changes shit, everything's fucking different. It would be cool, something like that, where like the superpower was involved, where it just continually like rebooted. So you got it. You have 1 hour to do these things,
wow.
and then you would see somehow. I'm not even quite sure how you would do this, but you would see the output, and maybe the next time that output is what the major world is, and then you do your stuff there, and then that's saved, and then the next time you roll over, that's the world, and it just continually changes, and maybe you have a goal of saving your mom or whatever. That might work.
Flash is my favorite comic book character, and you made it ding off my head. That would be amazing. That would actually.
What am I right? What's it called? The
Flashpoint. Yeah.
Flashpoint. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that would be enjoyable.
Yeah, that's actually. I haven't read that comic series or looked into Flash all that much, but that sounds like a phenomenal idea. You're saying he goes back in time, and based off a choice he makes, like the
storylines changed, yeah. It's a matter of fact, in Arrow in the current Flash, I think that's pretty much, they just sort of finished up a 2-season
season
arc.
3 was like all about Flashpoint,
or
how
season
it screwed up
1,
everything.
Yeah, right. And what was cool is they gave it 2 seasons prior to show you normal. So they were like, this is normal, and then they have an entire season where they're like, everything's fucked.
Yeah,
and
you got screwed up.
I like it, but
I love
whatever. I like it a lot, but I know a lot of people hate.
I would like. I can't say it's like as a comic
a lot of
fan
people
or
hate
anything, but I would say Flash is my favorite out of anyone in DC, just purely based off aesthetic and superpowers.
That kid does a great job, and his dad is the original Flash, by the way, from the original show.
Yeah, from 1990. Yeah,
1990. I own
John
it
Wesley
somewhere.
Shipp.
John Wesley Shipp. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is. They do a lot of
It's really
callbacks. They do. I mean, I know people get pissed because it's CW and they think that it can't possibly be good. But the fact is I enjoy most of their superhero stuff. But I think Flash, what's his name? Grant? What's the kid's name?
Grant Gustin.
Grant, that dude. I mean,
he's amazing.
He's a pretty, like, there are some times where you're all, how is he going to pull this off because it involves another speedster doing this to a family member, whatever. And somehow at the end of the show, I'll be like mopey with him. He'll be down. I'll be like, yeah, man, I got you, bro. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, damn, he's good. And his dad, probably one of the best actors in the history of TV. Or his sorry, not the dad Flash, but his stepdad, the one who Jesse. Isn't his real name Jesse? Yeah. I mean, that guy
too, and he went in Broadway.
Dude, he is in the first 3 or 4 episodes of that show. I just remember looking up everything he has ever done. And just following it.
Yeah, I'll ask you damn minds.
Yeah, I know right now a lot of people are like, fucking CW, whatever.
Yeah. It's my favorite show, but that's only because Flash is my favorite TV character.
Yeah.
I'm really biased, basically. A lot of people don't like my opinions on this TV show.
Hey, understandable. Understandable.
I think we're friends now, Karak.
Exactly. Star Trek and Flash.
Yeah.
What else is there, brother? What else is there?
Swiftly ended my friendship with Karak.
Yeah, no shit. What was that all about?
It's just a broad stroke right here. Last topic we're going to talk about is Far Cry 5. Karak and I completed it. And Jaden, you are very close to the finale of this game. So
I beat it.
He beat it.
Oh, you did
beat it.
I thought you said you were close to
Yeah.
beating it.
There will be
I
no
haven't
spoilers.
beat, like,
Anybody
all the
watching?
stuff. Yeah, I won't.
Generally speaking, how did you like the game?
I loved it. I've always been a fan of Far Cry. I think it's one of Ubisoft's best.
Series.
Yeah, best IP, and I like the open world destruction, the craziness, and I thought another one of those unpopular opinions I was talking about, but I did think that the father was better than Voss in Far Cry.
Mm-hmm.
See, I wouldn't argue that.
I loved his character.
I wouldn't argue that because Voss had the potential to be the best, and he really was intriguing, but I don't think he got the screen time that Father got.
Yeah.
Which could, I think, objectively just make Father better because they executed on the scenes he was in.
Yeah.
But go on, you were talking more about the game? Or...
But yeah, the story, the gameplay, everything about it was, and it was an improvement. Like, it was enough change that I thought it switched up the series enough to not be the same thing like a lot of people are complaining about.
What about you, Karak?
Yeah, I mean, missions and stuff were definitely felt different, far more organic. Like, you would do a mission, and it was really cool because you'd have a mission that was far away, and as you were doing that mission, they did a good job with world building. So there'd be like a note, or there'd be some thing that looked like somebody had been hurt, and you would come on it and go, not come on it. You would come upon it, and you would go, "What is this?" Yeah, no shit. Yeah, sorry about that, people. So you would come upon it, and then you would not know what it was about, and then you would find out as you were progressing through one quest about these other elements in other quests and other people in the game. That was way better than past Far Cries. For me, though, I will say that I felt that 5 hours in this game is way different than 10, is way different than 15, and is way different than 20. At 5 hours, I would have told you the game was incredibly fun, and very good with some issues. But as I continued to play, the bullet drop, luckily Ubisoft themselves are like, okay, we're definitely fixing the bullet drop because it's insane. I mean, you're talking about like 100 meters having to not only lead somebody, but seeing a drop of like 6 feet on your bullet. So it's like shooting a paintball. And these are high-powered rifles, and it'll be like, poof, gunk. And you're like, oh, that's a 22 long rifle. So I would like to see that fixed. I think overall those characters, I was a fan of Father. I was a fan of all the others. But this game hinges on how you play it. If you play it and you defeat an area, then that'll be a safer area once you defeat all the bad guys, once you defeat the Herald. If you don't, if you play it like they sort of hint you should, you can have a really bad time because the enemies will not stop spawning. And that can, after a while, when you see a badger kill a dude who then falls down, lights on fire, rolls under a truck, the truck spawns back up into the air, and you're like, what is happening? And I think that the more active that game is, actually the worse it is. They need to go in and curb a couple of the spawns, control a couple things.
I agree.
And that, over time, sort of killed me. And then I told you, and I think it was in tweets, I think, when we were talking, and I said I did Faith first. And I have to say, I think that Faith in the middle would be great, but first
I did Faith
is fucking weird because you enter this game and you're like, there's a magic user in the game. What is happening? Like, people are teleporting, and it's like the first time a chick walks up to you, and
I never thought about it that way. That if you went Faith first,
oh, it is crazy.
I mean, first,
and they're like, oh, it's just a drug, and you're all, no, I get that, but if you don't defeat her, that will happen everywhere. So you have to defeat her once you start experiencing her. So there's some issues there. I think that doing Faith first for most people is a disservice. So when you're jumping into this game, please do her in the middle. End probably wouldn't feel right either. I think that right in the middle, she's much better than first.
I went with the way they hinted. They hinted at doing John first, and
oh, I'm sorry. They hinted at don't do any of them. Just run around and randomly. And I'm like, dude, you're gonna get spawned on for the rest of your life. Like, there's the one time, for example, in my single player game, I killed I can't remember, 3,000 people or something like that. In the PC version, in 1 hour of co-op, we killed 999 people. and they just spawn, just like you'd be shooting a guy, boom, spawn right there. That really impacted me. I'm glad people like it though, because I'm a big Far Cry fan. So I don't care if I don't like it, as long as other people do. That's all that matters. Because I want it to continue.
I didn't have the same problem as many people did with the spawns. At least when I'm trying to do something else, like when I was running around, spawns everywhere. But I went fishing for 45 minutes straight. Like, I'm not even kidding. I fished for 45. I don't know why, but it was really fun to me.
No, fishing's fun.
Yeah, and nothing spawned. I saw maybe one enemy, I think. And
wow. Okay, I don't even know how that's possible. I fished for like 30 seconds and a bear killed me.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of the game, I feel personally, is its dynamic nature really leads to a lot of world building, where I was like, oh man, well, I could only see this in Far Cry. And you know, like Karak said, you know, the badger attacks someone, guy rolls down the hill, sets on fire. I personally embrace that. The random spawns, I only encountered those mainly when I was in a mission where it was, you know, defend this area for X amount of minutes, and, you know, if I moved near a spawn point, like, I'd see 4 enemies just pop up in front of me, be like, what the fuck? It would happen a lot. In the world itself, yeah, like, you'd see a couple of magical appearances, but I never had a big issue with the spawns, just like I said, in those wave-based missions, where it made it very obvious that enemies were just going to keep respawning until that timer hit 0. Yeah, I mean, I made a full review on it, so I don't want to go crazy in depth on it, personally.
I think another thing that I was having a problem with, and I put it in my review, was the consistent interruptions of the NPCs talking because of enemies spawning. Like that ending video, I only put it 3 times because I didn't want to like have people think I was doing a bug video, because I wasn't. But she interrupted 27 times. She happens to also have the longest sentences in the game. Like quest dialogue. So you come up to her and you hit play, and she's like, slap my tits and call me Shirley. And you're like, okay, here we go. And then it fucking gets interrupted because a car drove by. You destroy the car, or it just drives by. You wait for your 15 seconds. Then she's like, you can see her hunched, and then she unhunches, and you're like, okay, I want to talk to her now. Slap my tits and call me Shirley. So, and then boom, and you're like, oh, please God, don't continue happening. So I think that there's just a lot that goes on in those games that not everybody will experience. It's like every Far Cry game, where every Bethesda game, dude, Fallout 4, I told you this, I didn't have a bunch of bugs like a lot of people did. So my experience with that game was different than a lot of people. And people got mad at me about it, but it's like, I don't get mad if they have more bugs or less bugs than I do. It happens in these games.
It happens.
Yeah, I agree. Because for me, my experience was I was in Jacob's region. I had just leveled up, and you know, like when you hit a certain level, they'll be like, you're being hunted. And that's when it usually, like 30 seconds later, initiates a cutscene. So I completed something. I think I blew up a silo or a truck, and I leveled up, and it tells me I'm being hunted, but I'm talking to Herc. And, you know, I'm going through this ridiculous cutscene, and then all of a sudden, it fades out. Where was I? Yeah, it fades out while I'm talking to Herc, brings me into a mission area for Jacob, but then all of a sudden, it brings me out of that area back to Herc because his mission was activating, and then I'm like, so did I just break the game? Then it sends me back to Jacob's, and then like the full cutscene plays and everything, and then it kicks me back to the open world, and I had Herc's mission, but I was like, you know, that just because when you get hunted and captured, they just run up to you and shoot you with darts and knock you out or whatever. Or at least that's what they did in Fate's region. In the other regions, it didn't really make quite as much sense to me what they did to induce these psychedelic cutscenes.
If you listen closely, they'll be like, get the Blitz bullets, or the Bliss bullets.
John's region.
That's what it was. Yeah, the Bliss bullets.
I don't know about you guys also. I had a couple bugs there where I was getting the same mission over and over. So I would be basically, they say we're coming, like hunters are coming, which you know you can't get away from. That's the cutscene. You can fight them a little bit, but you will always be knocked out unless it bugs. So I was like, okay. So I waited. he came up, they shot me, and I went into the same mission multiple times with the same person that we were playing co-op, where it went into the mission, we did it, and then the next time we went into the exact same mission, next time the exact same mission. I think we did the same mission like 5 times. Mm-hmm. And that to me was, I couldn't tell if it's because they were psychedelic missions, if they were just like picking from random, and maybe there's a bunch that they pick from. But I've only known a couple people who had some repeats, but I certainly did. Did you guys have any repeated?
And Jacob's reason is meant to be like that. Like you do the same psychedelic, but it has like different cutscene elements. Does that make sense?
Mine was Faith.
Oh, okay.
I never had any repeats. Like,
yeah, it's not
I've
the
just had
exact
those strange interruptions, like the Clint. I think Clint Nixon missions. I think that's what they were called, like the ones.
Fletch Nixon.
That's it, not Clint.
With the eagle.
Yeah. I love those, but
I love it.
For one of them, I started. I was about to start it up, and then after that, I got hit by the bliss bolts, I guess. So I start loading in a cutscene. They're talking to me, like doing the typical Ubisoft where they get in your face, like you're just sitting there with a fucking camera the whole time.
Yeah.
I can't stand that, dude. You have no idea. And all you hear in the background is like that Clutch Nixon commentator, like, I cannot believe what I am seeing right now. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And all of a sudden, like, the text pops up and it just says mission failed. I'm like, what is happening? And then it fades to black, kicks me out, and I'm standing in front of the mission thing. I'm like, did it just cancel out the cutscene again? So that was one of my bigger flaws, is that the dynamic nature of the world could sometimes fuck you. But for the most part, I was kind of forgiving with it when I really think about it, because I knew it's really what made the game so much fun for me. I was like, these crazy things happen, and it'll cancel out a cutscene, but I think they were conscious of it because I was able to still get into the cutscene itself and see it in its entirety, where it wasn't like breaking quests, which I think with the way the world's structured and how those cutscenes would just overlap and missions would overlap, that could easily happen and just break the whole game, at least in my eyes. So I was a little bit more forgiving on that part, but I can absolutely understand why it was frustrating. Like
For me, it was also like 40 minutes. I don't know about you guys, but like some of the longer missions are maybe 40. They're not, it depends on what they are. Like sometimes you have a plane, then you land, then you do this. But what would happen for me is I would get to the end and a fucking badger would attack the NPC who was giving me the quest, and I would lose 40 minutes because it would fail. And so it would be like, you have 12 seconds, and I'm like, okay, and I run up to the guy, and I get ready to hit E, and a fucking on-fire badger leaps and fucking takes him out, and it's like 11, 10, 9. I'm like, no, what's happening? And so 40 minutes was lost. That happened a couple times, and I think that that kind of stuff, it doesn't take much before it can really grate on you, because I did enjoy it when it was working. It's when it didn't and impacted that loop that I was getting so frustrated at times with it. And certainly, I think, luckily, Ubisoft has patched that already. They've patched a couple things. I also had a progress save bug, unfortunately. They should never, ever have another game that has one save. That's all I'm saying. It's we need to move away from games that have one single save for a game player.
Autosave reliance.
Yeah. It's saved during the stars. So basically, it's saved and corrupted. So the next time I loaded my game, it was just stars and no HUD, and I couldn't get out, and so I lost like 12 hours. And that kind of stuff is infuriating. Like that, they really need, if they're going to have a game, like you said, where they sort of know it's all over, I would love for them to also know that you might need another save game, just to be safe.
Yeah, for me, like I said, my biggest pet peeve is the camera. The silent protagonist, like in the cutscenes, it is literally, I just pictured like if I am a fly on the wall,
the camera on your head.
I just picture my main character just standing here like this.
Yeah.
When Joseph tries to like have an epic monologue, it's like, all right, man, nice. Like you're just like leaning in with the camera, really letting him get into it, and then that's what it felt like the whole time. But these are all, in the scheme of things, for me, what issues I encountered were minor gripes. It's more so what Karak hit on earlier, that you can have such drastically different experiences across the board. Like, I'm sure people listening to this are going to be, I had a great time with this and no bugs. And some people are going to be like, fuck yeah, guys, like, give it to them. It was such an awful experience. And it's like, it's just such a all over the place game in terms of story, how you tackle that, in the terms of the gameplay, its bugs. that for me it panned out, you know, decently. I enjoyed it enough to say like, hey, wait for like 10-15 bucks off of it and pick it up because it's a lot.
That's what I said. A lot of people, I think, thought I hated it. I'm like, no, I actually loved a great deal of it. It's just that there were enough bugs. Also, I got to say, Herc, best character ever. He always will be.
Same.
Dude, Reg, one of my patrons, was like, who's this guy you keep talking about in Discord? I'm like, oh, shit, you don't have him in your game? So I jumped in, and we unlocked him, and it's just like instant laughter the moment he talks, because he is fucking hilarious, man. Like,
is he the one who...
He's the redneck.
Is he the one who, when he gets downed, he goes, "Oh, I got hit in my moneymaker. It's not really hard to. It's really not hard to miss, though."
Or he'll like be on a zip line, and it'll be like he'll be on a zip line and be like, I like it when the wind blows through my taint." Just like Jesus Christ. Or when he'll say stuff about like his mom teaching him. He'll be like, "I was homeschooled and I got an A in guns," and you're like, "That is so perfectly redneck."
It's American.
And I come from a redneck area, so like I'm not dissing on it at all.
Same.
I, you know, as somebody who hunted all their life, so I get it. And obviously it's blown out of proportion, but that's what's funny about it. I think the Nixon, the fucking eagle. When I first got Clutch Nixon's mission and I hit start and that eagle and the fucking flag comes up, I was like, awesome.
There are moments like that.
So American.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing with this game. Some people have an issue with that. It's like you'll have the Clutch Nixon mission, then you'll have a real serious moment from one of the seeds, and then you'll meet Herc, and you'll be like, what does this game want to be? But if you just kind of sit back and let the game just hit you with what it's got and say, all right, I'm willing, I'm receptive, just go. You know, that's when I think the game...
Kind of what I did.
Yeah, exactly. It's I think when the game can really excel. You know, it's a really good time. It's a very...
What about,
very fun time.
did you guys like cars better than helicopters, better than planes? Which ones did you like best?
I thought helicopters... I died too easily in helicopters. They go down really easily. But
they do.
Planes are balanced well. I like planes more than cars and helicopters.
I have a cool answer. I unlocked the skill where you can airdrop anywhere you fast travel, so I took my wingsuit pretty much everywhere.
Gotcha.
And that was fun. I mean,
first time I ever used... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, there was like a cool mission where you climb up to the tallest mountain in the game, and you wingsuit your way down to the guy who gave you the quest, and like, they don't tell you to do that, but because you can just fast travel right next to him. But I was like, I'm fucking flying down to him. It was really cool. So
that was the mission that I was actually going to mention, where I killed myself, leapt off, and the game didn't give me the prompt for what button to hit. My guy's just, come on. I was like, what the fuck happened? I think the wingsuit's a blast. It's pretty positive in its horizontal versus vertical drop. It's a little like a flying chipmunk with some rocket boosters, but it is a blast to use. And for me, I love the AI when you get like AI going nuts. Like you'll have a 4-person car or whatever, and you'll get all, and they're fucking shooting out windows, and you're just like, you really don't even know what's going on. That's when it's at its most enjoyable. For sure.
I love some of the crazy vehicles, like the bulldozer that just munches things up. One of the first vehicles you unlock if you go into John's region, the Widowmaker. You know, it's this big truck with turrets on it, and you can just mow anything down in your path. And the game's not hesitant to reward you with those cool tools. I was like, oh, this is a nice piece for a mission, and they're like, you unlocked it afterwards. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm taking this thing out for a ride. I'm gonna blow shit up. So they do a good job with that stuff.
There's a car that you can buy that's just generic. You don't get it from Quest or anything. It's called the Bootlegger. It has cannons on top of it, just like the Widowmaker. It's a muscle car, and
I have that one.
It's so fun to use because there's a quest that you get, just a random side quest that to just passively destroy any all the drug trucks and stuff in a face region, and I just went around destroying drug trucks, and that was so fun. Like, I loved the Bootlegger, and the vehicles are amazing.
See, for me, what I'd do is I'd like track them down and post up in like a bush and like throw proximity explosives and just watch him just roll by and boom, he's over. That was the most fun I had with it.
The C4, the fucking is probably my favorite weapon in that game.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, matter of fact, a lot of people who play with me will be all, dude, don't use that all the time. And I'm like, fuck it, all the time.
Yeah.
It is so fun because it's easier to understand where it's going to go than the grenades, which have a tendency to do the far right thing where they bounce. But what I was going to say was when you guys were playing it, I don't know about you, but when it comes to vehicles, the one thing, helicopters, they definitely were made of paper mache. That was weird.
Yeah.
But the trucks, the cars, the NPCs never, ever should be allowed to drive. Like, I've never in my life witnessed such bad. I don't even know why they called it auto drive. When you hit auto drive, it's fine. If you're in the passenger's or in the driver's seat and hit auto drive, I've never seen him wreck. But if you switch places with AI and you fucking hit auto drive, if it's anything other than the basic car, so if it's a sports car, if it's the one you can get from the Ubisoft store just for owning the game, the orange one, they fucking just donuts. They can't control it. They'll crash. And that to me was, well, it was fun, but it was also infuriating over time. But very enjoyable smaller vehicles. Also, I love the fact that when you shoot them, they always politely exit the vehicle when you kill them. So if you do a headshot, a guy in the car will go bang.
Yeah,
fall out.
It's like the audio recorder. Before I died.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now I'm out.
Exactly. Like the MP3 player. It's like, oh my god, I'm dying. Yeah. It was so. Obviously, it's to open it for you, right? To make it so you can jump in. But it is funny because it doesn't matter what they're in. Even in the like airplanes, you'll shoot them and they just politely open the door, leap out, and then die in the air.
I love the moment when I had Just Black in my squad. The second I unlocked her, I put her in because it was just a bow and arrow using chick, and I was like, fuck yes. It reminded me so much of Tomb Raider, so I was all about that. And I tell her to take out some pilot in a helicopter. Like, you can for your friends for hire, you can tell them to target certain people. I was like, you got a bow and arrow, but and I was having a lazy moment. I was like, I don't feel like aiming and trying to hit him for a headshot. Yeah. So I'm like, Jess, fuck it, you got a bow and arrow. She takes out an explosive arrow, pulls it back, shoots it, goes right through the glass, hits the pilot. You just see a fire explosion, and you just see him roll out of the helicopter, and it blows up in midair somehow. And I'm like, fuck, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I almost forgot about this, and I don't even know how, but I actually killed somebody like strafing me with a bow, like just shot them right in the head, and I'm like I didn't expect it to happen. I was just, it was like actually all I had. I remember I ran out of ammo, and the bow was the only thing I had, and he just.
Did you guys see that you get the perk to make your items stick to things? And so they'll stick to animals. They'll stick to people, and you can do some crazy shit. And you could technically stick it to somebody, then get in a car. If they're a good guy, they'll get in another car, follow you. You can take them to like a place where there's a barricade, go through the barricade, but then blow them up. I mean, you can do insane stuff. That's, like I said, when the game, I think, is absolutely rock solid. It's when it stops you from doing those things. Also, best music in a game in a long fucking time.
Yeah,
love that.
I agree.
Soundtrack.
I was very surprised by that. I did not expect that one single bit, because even my review, I was like, it kind of reminded me of Fallout. Like, when a song came on, I was like, this fits so well.
It was Justified. If you've ever seen the TV show Justified, it sounded just like the music from that, and I wasn't expecting it. And even family members will come in whistling it because it's been playing so much, and it's just it's fucking good music, man. It's really, really well done.
Even the little guitar that plays when you bring up like the perk menu or whatever.
Yeah,
I always liked that. It was like something that I could just whistle to. Does anyone else always use Grace Armstrong in their party?
Not anymore, because she's bugged. And Herc and her will get in a loop of verbal discussion about the army, and they won't ever stop. So I had to finally get rid of her, but I like her. I liked her a lot.
She was so good. Yeah, she was because for every character, once you hit, I think it's 30 kills with them, or 10 maybe. You unlock the ability to get that perk for them. And I remember with like Boomer, it took a decent amount of time. You got to tell the dog when to attack and get the kill. But with her, it was I threw her in my party. We got into one firefight, and it was like, you've now unlocked a new perk. And I was like, fuck yes. Wow. That's awesome. I loved her so much.
Cheeseburger was awesome. Did you like the bear?
I never had a chance to unlock him. I went to the place, I won't spoil where, but I went to the place to get him, and he wasn't there. And they say he's got to be somewhere around there. And I was like, do I look for him?
Yeah, he's in a creek nearby.
Okay. I just have to go find him. I want to fire the game back up. In fact, tonight I might, or tomorrow at some point I might, because I'm very much itching to play that game again.
Yeah.
that's kind of been my thing though. Is like this year, I guess this will kind of take the conversation off track. This year in particular, I haven't had that game that's kind of grabbed me, held on, made me want to keep playing no matter what. You know, it just hasn't happened this year. You know, Monster Hunter World, kind of, but by the time, you know, because I took a trip to Canada in between playing that game, and when I came back and started chipping through it, once it came to the end, I was ready to beat it and move on. Where I haven't had that game like a Nier or a Persona, where I was like, oh man, like I need to play this again ASAP, or you know, just I love this game so much, I can't believe it's coming to an end. You know, I haven't had that this year, and that's kind of what I've been looking for. Where once I beat Far Cry, I played most of the side content, and except for that one mission with Cheeseburger, I had unlocked every friend for hire, and I leveled up my character quite a bit. Where I was like, all right, it's time to move on. But you know, this discussion made me want to go play it again. But also, I've just, like I said, I haven't had that game. I don't know if you guys have had that yet, where I've just been like, kind of feeling about this year so far.
I haven't had a game except for Far Cry 5. Like, I still want to go back and play that really badly. Like,
nice. That's good.
Yeah.
Karak, what about you?
Other than that,
I mean, there's been some really good games, but like nothing is, like you said, nothing's really grabbed me. This Vermintide had some insane co-op moments, like stupidly fun, and I like that it's 4-player. I'm a big fan of 4-player. I'm not a fan of Far Cry 5's 2-player co-op at all versus 4. I think 4 would be a blast. So I think Vermintide I liked more because I had more people involved. It was more, you know, you could be like, hey, everybody jump in. And that was fun, but it really didn't, I don't know what the term would be, but it didn't grab me like games maybe Prey did last year or Rabbids yet. I mean, we're only in the 3rd month, so it's not too crazy. But
you know,
I
had the same thing though. I was like, yeah, there's been good games, but it's like the games I had certain expectations for, and I wouldn't even say it's my own expectations, but like Dragon Ball FighterZ, fun game, but I've always stood by the fact that I think that mechanically in some ways it's flawed. I hate its lobby system so much. I think it's such a weird, silly decision. You know, I think, but as a fighter, I just think it's missing certain things that fighters, especially if it's speed, need to have. I mean, even though I've put a crazy amount of hours into it, it's not like it's a blast every time, if that makes any sense. You know, and so that's like what I've been looking for, is that game that just really grabs and does not let go. So it's kind of made this year interesting, because last year I felt pretty spoiled, at least for me. I knew for a fact I was going to have 3 games that I was going to probably have a high chance of loving. I mean, Persona, Danganronpa, and Nier. Once Karak told me about Nier, I was like, fuck. I love the first Nier, and hearing that this one's good, like, I'm probably gonna love it. And I ended up making it one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
This year though, it's a little bit, you know, we're about to hit April, and it's like, yeah, I've had a lot of fun ass times playing games, but I haven't had like that. Like, I remember, okay, I'm rambling, but I remember, you know, last year, it was January, I beat Resident Evil 7. I'm like, that's in my game of the year list. I fucking love that game. That's undoubtedly gonna be in my game of the year list. Like, I knew instantly. Where I haven't had that yet. I haven't had that game that I'm like, yeah, it's a top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that I don't know if you guys agree, but one of the things I'm doing a video on right now is the fact that because of technology and the way it's going and the way it's gone for a while, are we at a point where a couple genre-defining titles have defined it in such a way that it's hard for anything coming afterwards? And that maybe this year is that year, because if you look at like GTA 5 is a product of a ton of failure and a ton of luck and a ton of randomness. It's not necessarily just that it's awesome. It's that people had a longer period of time to make little minuscule stuff, things, you know, and it wasn't perfect when it released. So, Witcher 3 is amazing, but if I hear another person tell me, well, it's not Witcher 3, and I'm like, well, then are we done? Are we going to stop at Witcher? Are we never going to play another game even if it's not as perfect as Witcher 3? Because that doesn't make any sense at all. And I'm worried that we're getting to a point to where this technology sort of allowed for these big games, maybe not technology with Nier, but where a lot of these big, amazing titles came out, and then this year is sort of, it sounds weird, but it's like you're chasing the high, and the high will probably take a while for you to forget what it was like. And so like last year was the high year. It's not as, it's good, but it's not as good as Nier. I mean, Resident Evil started out last year, and it was a VR game that was fantastic, and it was a normal game that was fantastic, and that was at the start. I think that was January. Like, it was just, it hit, I mean, the fucking gaming hit the ground rolling last year. So I also think we're getting services games, and we're getting a lot of bugs, where last year we had some bugs. But look at Kingdom Come Deliverance. I mean, holy shit, that game's buggy. Yeah. So, and good, by the way. Yeah. So, like, that's the problem, is I think that the high is harder to come by. Yeah. It's harder to look this year.
One thing I've noticed, and a commenter said it on, was it my Far Cry review or was it my Kingdom Come review? He's like, it feels like with all these games, they do a lot of good things, but there's that one glaring issue with every game recently. And it's not like we're chasing perfection here. We know no game is perfect. But it's like, we'll look at Kingdom Come. Wow, this successfully blends realism and fun, but holy shit, is it fucking buggy. Dragon Ball FighterZ. Oh my gosh, this looks like the show. This is explosive action and some of my favorite characters to ever see a screen in general. But I personally believe, like, okay, this game needs a combo breaker. Having your first DLC character, Broly, be added, and he's covered in super armor like Android 16, which is one of the most busted characters in the game. Not a smart design choice in the slightest. So, like, I look at it like that. It's like, that's its big glaring flaws. It's design-wise. Yeah. And that's been my thing with this year. Is like, I think it's going to be one of the better years for gaming because we got games like Metro, Spider-Man, Red Dead. I mean, it's packed with this, this fall. But right now, it's just been a lot of what... I wish I had his name or her name. Because it was a really good comment just saying, like, why is it always, like, one just big flaw sticks out so much?
I don't know about you guys, but I also feel that Fallout or Far Cry 5's huge flaw is its microtransactions. Man, I do not like how those are presented. Like, if you want to present it separate, like Origins, where it's in its own loot box over on the right, and at every merchant,
intrusive, yeah.
That's fine. But every time I went anywhere, it was like green money, red money, green money, red money, green money, red money, and
the silver bars and then the cash.
Exactly, and I'm a little, and you do get some cash for outposts, but I've done 100% on all the outposts, and it's not enough to buy every item in the game. It's not even close.
Enough to make, like,
a shirt's like 50 fucking silver bars, and that's more than you usually get from a single outpost. So,
which is purposely.
Which is, of course, of course. Or did you notice the price on the guns? It was like 2,000, 2,000, 7,000. And you're all, bitches, what are you doing? So I think microtransactions is what a lot of games this year will probably have, where people are like, I like this game, but where that hits a lot of people. Because I think to a lot of folks, microtransactions might be fine if they're to the side, but when they're right in front of your, and I'm not speaking for everybody, they can comment, but I'm just saying, I think for a lot of people that's okay. It's when they're just right fucking there. Inside from the very moment. It's the very first time you open the store, and you're just like, damn. That was, and I honestly, kudos to Origins. Origins, I think, handled it much better.
I agree.
I did too. But I like
feel Far Cry 5 was in our face, though. Personally, that's just my opinion. I never really felt, oh man, this is getting in the way.
I didn't find it annoyingly in my face, but I do understand what you mean, Karak. But I always I like the fact that nothing was locked behind silver bars. Yeah. You can still earn money, and not in a ridiculous amount of money, but it's...
How'd you guys end up earning your cash? Was there anything...
Hunting.
Did you guys just hunt?
Hunting and fishing.
Yeah, I was going to say hunt, fish, sell stuff.
Side missions.
And then, side missions. I never had an issue affording what I wanted, though, because I had a more slimmed down taste, but I was like, oh man, an MP40, I'm going to use that a ton, and I kept that for most of the game. Use the ACR with the or ARC, I think it's called, with the American flag on it for most of the game.
Me too.
I was like,
I love that gun.
This is awesome.
America.
It's Far Cry. Gotta always have a sniper on you, and bow and arrow at some points. Like I kind of used a very
I used pretty much the same amount of weapons.
Yeah. But,
I upgraded my snipers because there's more variety in there, but
And that was our final topic. That'll conclude episode 150 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. That was a good one, as per usual. Jaden, thank you so much for joining us here. I mean, this is an excellent time.
Yeah, it was a
one
blast.
of our longer shows.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Hey, of course.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to plug before we wrap this up?
Twitch, Cheesy Crust with the K, and so is my Twitter.
Awesome. So be sure to follow him on both of them.
You sound like a character in Far Cry. It just dawned on me. Cheesy Crust. This is Cheesy Crust to buckskin rubber.
That's
Where are you?
I think that's going to be the hashtag. Cheesy Crust with a K.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Cheesy Crust. Okay, let's do it. Hashtag. That works.
Hashtag Cheesy Crust with a K if you got to this point in the show. Jaden, thank you so much for joining us. Karak, any last words?
No, man. Just everybody. Hope you're enjoying whatever you're playing this weekend. There's a lot of cool stuff. I think it's a holiday weekend, right?
It is. It is. So we hope everyone who's listening, because this will be going up on Easter Sunday. So for those celebrating, hope you have a nice Easter. For those not celebrating, hope you have a happy, safe day. And we will catch you guys in next week's H.A.M Radio Podcast. Peace out.
Peace out.
See you guys.